Once in a while, we need to revisit the masterpiece that is the Batman. Everything in this movie flows at the pace of a song written by the gods. Robert Pattinson's Batman moves and feels like Batman most of the time. We spend more time with him in the suit than in tuxedos. Jim Gordon is more than an incorruptible cop. He is the single thread of sanity left in Gotham's police force. And Gotham itself lives and breathes like its own character, just as essential to the story as every human being in it. Every other character feels fully fleshed out, thoroughly written. But what makes the Batman even better isn't any one of those things individually. We've seen movies get most of them wrong and still become unforgettable. We've seen movies get all of those things right and still fall flat. Because what makes a great film is not the checklist. It's the one thing it gets completely, undeniably right.
Why so serious?
And in the Batman, that one thing is the Riddler.
I just sorted a slide. FBI, open up!
Paul Dano's Edward Nashton isn't trying to destroy Gotham. He isn't trying to dominate it. He's trying to show it to itself.
Here to unmask the truth about this cesspool we call a city.
And that is a completely different category of threat, because you cannot rebuild your way out of something you now know is true. Matt Reeves made him a man with asthma and bad posture, the type of guy you'd cross the street to avoid without ever perceiving him as a threat. Anyone on screen could physically beat this man. There is nothing imposing about him, but his influence is undeniable. And here is the question this video is going to answer. Not just why he is terrifying, but why a city like Gotham was always going to produce someone exactly like him. Because the Riddler is not Gotham's greatest threat. He is Gotham's consequence. Before we get into Edward Nashton, I want to give you a framework, a way of measuring what we are actually talking about when we call a villain the product of his city. If you've seen my video on stakes, you already know the instinct behind this. Not all threats are built the same. And what a story puts on the line tells you everything about what that story is really about. This is the same logic applied to villains. I'm going to call it the fear index. Tier 1, threat. The base of the pyramid. Does this villain actually endanger something? Physical power, scale, reach. Most villains live here. The fear is immediate, visceral, and external. When the threat is removed, the fear goes with it. And importantly, a Tier 1 villain could exist anywhere. He doesn't need a specific city, a specific history, or a specific wound. He just needs a target. Tier 2, motive. The villain wants something coherent, an ideology, however warped, a reason that goes beyond destruction. This is where a villain stops being a force of nature and starts being a person. And a villain with a coherent worldview is more frightening than one with just power, because you can follow the logic. You can almost understand it, but still, a Tier 2 villain could emerge from almost any environment. The motive is his own. The city is just the stage. Tier 3, psychological damage. Does the villain get inside someone's head? Not just hurt them, change them. Make them question themselves, their principles, the story they tell about who they are. The damage outlives the confrontation, but we are still at Tier 3 talking about what the villain does to individuals, to Batman, to the police. The city itself is still background. Tier 4, truth. The rarest tier, the top of the pyramid. Does the villain have a case? Not just a motive, an argument that survives him. Something the city cannot dismiss, cannot arrest, and cannot rebuild its way out of. A Tier 4 villain is not produced by evil. He is produced by the specific accumulated, documented failures of the world around him. Remove Gotham from the Riddler's story, and there is no Riddler. He is not a villain who chose this city. He is a villain this city created. That is the difference. And that is what we are going to prove. Edward Nashton grew up in a Gotham orphanage. Not just any orphanage. The one that Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, the man the city thought was a saint, the man whose legacy Batman has spent his entire life protecting, publicly funded, and then abandoned when the money ran out. Edward watched Gotham's elite make promises and then disappear. He watched the city celebrate the Waynes while children in that building went without. He watched corruption get dressed up as philanthropy and handed back to the public as hope. And here is what makes it worse. He is smart. He didn't spiral into chaos. He didn't become a monster in the way monsters are supposed to become monsters, through rage, through madness, through some visible break from reality. He organized, he researched, he documented. He built a case over years against the people who failed him and the institutions that protected them. Every riddle he sends is a version of the same question. How long have you known? And how long have you looked away? Edward does not feel incomprehensible. He feels like someone whose pain found the wrong container. A man with real grievances, real intelligence, and no one who ever cared enough to redirect either of those things towards something other than this. The city did not get a monster. It got a mirror. On paper, the Riddler looks like the weakest physical threat in Batman's rogues gallery. He isn't enhanced. He is slight and awkward. Anyone can snap him in half. And that's why he attacks people when they don't expect it. This is the first time the elite in Gotham have had a target on their head. So obviously they won't expect it. The thing is, Mr. Mayor wasn't worried about a masked man breathing like a tired old man, bashing his head multiple times with a carpet tucker. He was worried about losing the election to a black woman. His victims were not afraid of him. He doesn't fight, he ambushes. And ambushes only work when the target has already decided they are safe. This is what separates him from a conventional physical threat. Gotham had systems for violence. It had no system for Edward Nashton, because no system ever thought to build one. He was invisible to the city, to its institutions, to the men whose secrets he spent years cataloging. And invisible people see everything. He knew the names, the accounts, which official was connected to which mob payment, which police captain had been paid to look the other way. The city's corruption assumed its own invisibility. It never occurred to anyone that they might need to hide from someone like him, so he kills the mayor, the commissioner, the DA, methodically, patiently, with years of preparation. None of it is aimed at Batman. Batman's physical superiority is simply irrelevant to what the Riddler is doing. The threat was never his body. The threat was what the city handed him without realizing it. And by the time Batman understood that, Gotham was already underwater. The lowest score on the index. But in this case, a low score is the argument. The Riddler's motive isn't invented, but it isn't clean either. This is where it gets complicated, because the Riddler wants you to believe he is a crusader. He frames himself as a fellow vigilante, a peer to Batman, someone who looked at Gotham's rot and decided to do something about it. And on a structural level, he isn't wrong. The corruption he targets is real. The cover-up he exposes is documented. The Wayne legacy he dismantles was built on a lie Gotham chose to believe because the truth was inconvenient. But underneath the evidence folders and the ideology is something far older and far smaller. Envy.
The day the great Thomas Wayne announced he was running for mayor made all those promises. Well, a week later he was dead and everybody just forgot about us. All they could talk about was poor Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, the orphan. Orphan. Being in some tower over the park isn't being an orphan. Looking down on everyone with all that money. Don't you tell me.
Bruce Wayne, also an orphan, also a child who lost everything, was handed sympathy, inheritance, and a city that mourned for him. The same city that forgot Edward existed, that asymmetry never left him. It calcified into something that looks like justice from a distance, but is, at its core, a very personal wound, dressed in the language of righteousness.
You showed me what was possible. You showed me all it takes is fear and a little focused violence. You inspired me. You're out of your goddamn mind. What?
Just hold that thought. We'll come back to it. His violence is not incidental to his motive. He believes it is necessary. He believes Gotham cannot be reformed. It has to be purged. And he believes Batman should understand that because they are, in his mind, the same. Two men shaped by Gotham's failures, fighting back in the only way that works. The difference is that Batman was viewing vengeance from the outside, while Edward was living inside it, and he was already corrupted by it. It is compelling. It is grounded. It is almost impossible to fully dismiss, but it is also self-serving in ways the Riddler cannot see or refuses to. His evidence is real. His cause has legitimacy, but his methods and the personal hunger behind them corrupt everything he is trying to say. Batman sits across from Edward Nashton expecting a prisoner and finds someone who sees them as the same. Two people shaped by the same city's failure. Two people who looked at Gotham and decided to do something about it. The Riddler didn't just build a plan around Batman. He used Batman's investigation, Batman's instincts, Batman's need to pursue the truth as the instrument of the plan itself. The hero became the accomplice without ever realizing it. And then Edward does something that reframes the entire scene.
How could you say that?
You think you'll be remembered?
You're a pathetic psychopath.
Begging for attention.
You're gonna die alone in Arkham. A nobody. No!
He doesn't play it like a villain's triumph. He reaches out, genuinely. Edward Nashton believes they are the same, two people the city forgot who found their own way back into its story. He isn't taunting Batman. He's offering him something. Brotherhood.
Look at you. Your mask is amazing. I wish you could have seen me in mine.
And that is what makes it devastating rather than threatening. Batman can't give it to him, but he can't fully refuse it either, not without acknowledging the parts of it that are true. The moment Batman shows hostility, Edward's face changes. The confidence collapses into confusion, into anger, into disappointment. It almost feels like Edward is absorbing the psychological damage more than Batman is. But here's what makes this Tier 3 moment land as a Gotham verdict, not just a personal wound. Batman isn't only questioning himself, he's questioning the symbol, and the symbol belongs to Gotham. If Batman is part of the system that failed Edward Nashton, if the Bat Signal, the Waynes, and the entire mythology of Gotham's salvation are built on the same rotten foundation the Riddler is exposing, then the damage isn't personal, it belongs to the city. Let me ask a very important question. When the credits roll on the Batman, was the Riddler wrong? Think rationally. If someone existed today and decided to do what the Riddler did, would you truly be against him? Gotham's founding families built the city on organized crime. The police covered it up for decades. Politicians profited. The Wayne legacy was curated and weaponized to keep the public compliant and grateful. The orphanage was a political opportunity. Renewal was a front. All of that is true within the film. None of it is refuted. Batman doesn't stand at the end and prove the Riddler wrong about Gotham. If anything, Batman begins to realize something that permanently changes his arc. From an immature vigilante chasing vengeance into a man forced to become something else. Edward Nashton goes to Arkham. The water recedes. The city begins to rebuild. But the corruption he exposed doesn't disappear. And that's the point. The Riddler's war was never truly against Batman. It was against Gotham. The physical threat was aimed at the city's elite. The motive was to expose the system. The psychological damage was inflicted on every citizen, forced to watch the good men they trusted get dragged into the light. And the truth? The truth belonged to Gotham. You might argue that he also wanted to hurt Bruce Wayne. But that's where you'd be wrong. Because in Edward's eyes, Bruce Wayne is Gotham. Bruce is the orphan the city chose to love, the one child who lost everything and still got handed sympathy, wealth, and a future. Edward doesn't see Bruce as an orphan at all. He sees him as proof that Gotham only cares when the victim is useful. So if he could destroy the one person Gotham cared about most, he would complete the mission. And the most unsettling part is this. Edward was right. That's why Batman couldn't look at him. Edward wasn't lying, and Batman knew it. And that is the moment Batman changes. He stops chasing vengeance and starts chasing justice. Here's the thing about the ending of The Batman. The film never says it out loud, but it never lets you forget it either. The Riddler is in Arkham. The city is recovering. Batman stands in the wreckage, extending a hand, choosing to become a symbol of hope rather than vengeance. It is a good ending. It is even a hopeful ending. But the system is still standing. The people who built Gotham on organized crime are still powerful. The institutions that protected corruption are still alive. The same rot will simply be passed down to the next generation. And the Wayne legacy Edward dismantled brick by brick will eventually be rebuilt because it is too useful for Gotham to abandon. That is what makes the Riddler the villain Gotham deserved, not simply the villain it got. He didn't arrive from outside the city's story. He grew inside it, in the gaps Gotham refused to look at, in the promises its institutions made and never kept, in the silence between what Gotham claimed to be and what it actually was. The Riddler is not Gotham's greatest threat. He is Gotham's consequence.